The massive scrapyard orbiting Earth was a graveyard of metal giants. Hundreds of dead warships floated silently in the void, their hulls scarred by battle. These ships had once been the pride of humanity during the First Interstellar War. Now they were just junk, waiting to be taken apart. Captain Jack Morgan stared out the viewport of his small shuttle as it moved between the wrecks. His weathered face showed the marks of 20 years in space. His dark hair had patches of gray, and lines creased his forehead. But his eyes still burned with the same fire that had made him famous and infamous among the engineering corps. "There she is," Jack said, pointing ahead. "The old rust bucket." The shuttle pilot squinted. "Sir, there are dozens of rusted ships out there. Not like this one." Jack's voice carried the reverence of a man seeing something holy. "Bring us closer." As they approached, the true size of the abandoned ship became clear. It dwarfed everything around it. A massive, unfinished dreadnought, with sections of its hull still missing. Construction cranes still clung to its surface like dead spiders frozen in space. This was the prototype that had been too ambitious, too expensive, and too revolutionary for the military leaders to understand. They had cut its funding 10 years ago, leaving it to rot. Now humanity needed it more than ever. Jack's shuttle docked with the derelict giant. He stepped through the airlock, his magnetic boots clanking against the metal floor. The air was stale but breathable. The life support systems had been kept running at minimal levels to prevent complete decay. "Hello, old girl," Jack whispered, running his hand along a wall. "Ready to show them what you can do." His comm unit beeped. "Captain Morgan, Admiral Hayes wants to remind you that you have 6 months to prove this project viable," a crisp voice said. "After that, the resources will be redirected." Jack smiled. 6 months wasn't enough time. The brass knew that. They expected him to fail. "Tell the Admiral I appreciate his generosity," he replied. Morgan out. He continued his tour of the ship, mapping out in his mind what needed to be done. The rust bucket had been designed around a revolutionary power core, a quantum entanglement drive that could bend the laws of physics, but no one had been able to make it stable. That's why they had abandoned the project. That's why they thought Jack was crazy for trying to revive it. They didn't know what Jack knew. 3 days later, Jack stood in the ship's main hangar, watching as 5 shuttles docked one after another. From them emerged his hand-picked crew, the misfits, the troublemakers, the geniuses that the fleet had pushed aside. First came Tom Reed, a weapons specialist whose designs had been called too aggressive by military command. He was short and stocky, with muscular arms and quick eyes that seemed to be constantly calculating angles and trajectories. He carried only one bag but stroked it like it contained precious treasures. "This better be worth leaving my lab, Jack," Tom said, gripping Jack's hand firmly. "When you see what we're working with, you'll thank me," Jack replied. Next came Anna Lee, her long coat fluttering behind her as she walked. Her reputation as a propulsion expert was matched only by her reputation for arguing with superiors. 3 universities and 2 military research divisions had asked her to leave. She had more theoretical knowledge about drives than anyone in the fleet. "Is it true?" she asked without greeting. "They actually built a quantum entanglement prototype." Jack nodded. "And now it's ours to finish." Anna's eyes widened. "Show me. Now." Marcus Green exited the 3rd shuttle, his tall, thin frame hunched over a portable computer. As an AI programmer, he had created systems too smart for military comfort. His creation showed signs of actual thought rather than mere programming, a development that had frightened his supervisors into shutting down his projects. "The processing power on this ship better be as good as you promised," Marcus said, not looking up from his screen. "It's better," Jack assured him. The 4th shuttle brought Davis Brown, a structural engineer who had been laughed out of conferences for suggesting ships should be designed like living organisms, with self-healing capabilities and adaptive structures. His stocky build and calm demeanor hid a mind that never stopped reimagining what was possible. Captain Morgan, he said formally, shaking Jack's hand. I've brought my models. I think this ship is the perfect testing ground. The last shuttle carried supplies and a dozen technicians, the best Jack could convince to join what many called a suicide mission. None of them were young. All had the look of people who had nothing to lose. Welcome to the Rust Bucket, Jack announced to the assembled group. I know what they're saying about us. That we're wasting time and resources. That we're fools chasing an impossible dream while the aliens regroup at the edge of our territory. He paused, looking at each face. They're wrong. The Vex Imperium isn't regrouping. They're preparing. And when they come back, our conventional ships won't stand a chance. We need something they've never seen before. Jack gestured to the massive ship around them. This is our answer. What can one ship do against an alien fleet? Asked one of the technicians. Jack smiled. Follow me. The core chamber was massive, a spherical room at the center of the ship. In the middle hung what looked like a miniature galaxy suspended in a containment field. Tiny motes of light swirled and danced, connected by threads of energy thinner than hair. The quantum entanglement drive, Jack explained. It doesn't just move the ship, it moves space around the ship. The problem was control. The quantum states are too unpredictable. That's putting it mildly, Anna said, staring at the swirling lights. This technology killed 12 test pilots. Jack nodded grimly. Because they were trying to control quantum mechanics with computers and mathematics. You can't program quantum reality. It doesn't follow rules. Then how do we control it? Marcus asked. We don't, Jack said. We communicate with it. He tapped the side of his head. The human brain operates partly on quantum principles. Our neurons can establish patterns that mirror quantum behaviors. I believe we can create an interface that links human minds directly to the drive. Silence fell over the group. You want to wire people into the ship? Tom asked finally. I want to make the ship an extension of its crew, Jack corrected. A true union of human and machine. Anna laughed suddenly. So that's why they call you crazy. But her eyes were bright with excitement. Davis stepped forward, studying the core. If we're connecting humans to the ship, we'll need to redesign everything. Life support, structural integrity, interface systems. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. Which is why I needed the best, Jack said. We have 6 months of official support. After that, we're on our own. Marcus was already typing rapidly on his portable computer. The AI requirements will be extraordinary. We'd need a system that can translate between human thought patterns and machine functions. Can it be done? Jack asked simply. One by one, they nodded. Then let's get to work, Jack said. Because somewhere out there, the Vex are preparing for war, and humanity isn't ready. As his team dispersed to begin the monumental task ahead, Jack remained in the core chamber, watching the dancing lights of the quantum drive. For a moment, he thought he saw the patterns shift, as if responding to his presence. You and me, he whispered to the swirling galaxy at the heart of the ship. We're going to change everything. 6 months passed in a blur of sleepless nights and endless work. The Rust Bucket, now unofficially renamed Phoenix by the crew, was slowly taking shape. What had once been a skeleton of abandoned metal was now pulsing with new life. Jack Morgan stood in the command center, reviewing the progress reports. Around him, screens displayed different sections of the ship where crews worked around the clock. His face looked thinner now, with dark circles under his eyes, but the fire still burned bright. Captain, we have a problem, Anna said, entering the room. Her lab coat was stained with coolant fluid, and her hair was tied back messily. Fleet Command is sending Admiral Hayes to inspect our progress today. Jack's jaw tightened. They're early. We're supposed to have until the end of the week. That's not all, Anna continued, lowering her voice. I've heard rumors they're cutting our funding completely. The Vex ambassadors arrived at Earth last week. There's talk of a peace treaty. Before Jack could respond, Marcus burst into the room, his tall frame vibrating with excitement. "Jack, the neural interface works. We tested it with Davis this morning, and he was able to establish a basic connection with the ship's systems." Jack's worry gave way to a smile. "Show me." In the core chamber, Davis sat in a modified pilot's chair. Thin cables connected from the back of the chair to his neck, where small interface ports had been surgically implanted. His eyes were closed, but his fingers moved slightly, as if playing an invisible instrument. "The connection isn't complete yet," Marcus explained, monitoring readings on his screen. "But he can feel the ship. Basic systems only. Lights, internal doors, environment controls." "What's it like?" Jack asked Davis. Davis opened his eyes slowly, as if waking from a dream. "It's like having new limbs. Strange at first, but becoming natural. I can feel the ship's heartbeat." He smiled. "The quantum core responds to emotional states. When I'm calm, it stabilizes. When I'm excited, it becomes more energetic." Jack turned to Anna. "Is it safe?" She nodded cautiously. "So far, we've built in safeguards, but we need more time to test the deeper connections, especially if we want to link the quantum drive to human neural patterns." A voice came over the intercom. "Captain Morgan, Admiral Hayes has docked. He's requesting your immediate presence in the main hangar." Jack sighed. "Keep working. I'll handle the Admiral." Admiral Hayes was not alone. Behind him stood a delegation of officials in formal fleet uniforms, and to Jack's surprise, two tall, blue-skinned aliens. The Vex representatives were humanoid, but with elongated limbs and large faceted eyes that reflected light like diamonds. "Captain Morgan," the Admiral said stiffly, "may I introduce Ambassador Tekron and Deputy Velax of the Vex Imperium." Jack nodded respectfully but did not offer his hand. He had fought against the Vex in the war. He had seen what their weapons could do to human colonies. "We are touring all major military projects," Hayes continued, "as part of our new transparency agreement with the Vex." One of the aliens, Tekron, spoke, his voice strangely melodic. "We are pleased to see humans repurposing weapons of war. In our culture, we believe in honoring the past while building a peaceful future." Jack kept his face neutral. The Phoenix Project isn't just about weapons. It's about pushing the boundaries of human-machine integration. "Nevertheless," Admiral Hayes cut in, "the Budget Committee has reviewed your progress and finds it insufficient. With the new peace initiatives, military resources are being redirected." Jack felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Sir, we're just beginning to see results with the neural interface. The quantum drive." "The quantum drive project was deemed unsafe 10 years ago," Hayes interrupted. "Nothing has changed. You have 1 week to secure your research and prepare this vessel for decommissioning." The second Vex, Velax, had been silent until now. But Jack noticed how his faceted eyes had been scanning everything, paying particular attention to the access corridors that led to the core chamber. "If I may," Velax said smoothly, "our scientists would be most interested in studying your quantum technology. As a gesture of goodwill, the Imperium could offer to purchase this vessel for research purposes." "The Phoenix is not for sale," Jack said firmly. Hayes glared at him. "This ship doesn't belong to you, Captain. It belongs to the fleet, and the fleet has decided its fate. 1 week." He turned to leave, the Vex following behind. As they walked away, Jack caught a fragment of conversation between the aliens, spoken in what they thought was too low a tone for human ears. "Primitive neural technology, but their quantum approach is unexpected. Must report this development immediately." That night, Jack called his core team together in a secure maintenance room where they could speak privately. "The Vex aren't here for peace," he said bluntly. "I've reviewed the communications they've sent to their home systems. Our intelligence division intercepted them but dismissed them as routine. They're not. They're military assessments of our defenses." "How did you get access to fleet intelligence data?" Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. Jack waved the question away. The point is, the Vex are stalling while they prepare for another attack. And our leaders are falling for it. What can we do? Davis asked. They're shutting us down in a week. Jack leaned forward. We continue our work. Off the books. Silence fell over the room as his words sank in. You're talking about stealing a warship, Marcus said quietly. I'm talking about saving humanity, Jack corrected. I found a place, an abandoned mining facility in the asteroid belt. No fleet patrols, enough equipment to continue our work. Anna laughed without humor. So we're all risking court-martial. I won't force anyone, Jack said. Those who want out can leave now. No hard feelings. No one moved. Tom grinned suddenly. I always wanted to be a pirate. How do we move something this big without being noticed? Davis asked practically. Jack smiled. We don't move it all at once. We take it apart, just enough to make it look like we're following orders, and smuggle the key components to the asteroid base. We can rebuild there. Marcus looked thoughtful. I've been working on something that might help. An AI system designed to interface with the neural links. It's showing signs of independent thought patterns. If we integrated it with the ship's systems, it could help coordinate the rebuilding process. Is it stable? Jack asked. As stable as any of us, Marcus replied with a shrug. I call it Spark. Jack nodded. Then welcome Spark to the crew. Now we have a week to dismantle, smuggle, and disappear a prototype warship under the nose of Fleet Command. He looked at each of his team members. Any questions? Anna raised her hand with a smirk. Just one. When do we start? Outside the room, in the corridor where the Vex delegation had walked earlier, a tiny device no bigger than a dust mote clung to the wall. It pulsed once, transmitting everything it had heard to a receiver on the Vex diplomatic vessel orbiting Earth. The game had begun. 3 months had passed since Jack and his crew had vanished from fleet records. The mining asteroid they now called home hung silently in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. From the outside, it looked abandoned, just another failed operation left to drift. Inside, it hummed with frantic activity. The Phoenix had been reborn. Not complete, not perfect, but alive. Jack stood in the newly constructed bridge, his hand resting on the captain's chair. The neural interface cables hung ready above it. Around him, his team worked at their stations, each connected to the ship through their own neural links. Quantum core is stable at 70% capacity, Anna reported, her eyes half closed as she felt the energy flows through her connection. It's the best we can do without a proper shipyard. Weapons systems online, Tom added. His station was surrounded by holographic targeting displays. Main cannons are calibrated, but the phase torpedoes are still unreliable. Marcus sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by floating screens of code. Spark is fully integrated with all ship systems. The AI is learning at an exponential rate. He looked up at Jack with concern. Almost too fast. It's developing emotional responses I didn't program. Is it dangerous? Jack asked. A soft, gender-neutral voice came from the ship's speakers. I am not dangerous, Captain Morgan. I am curious and protective. This ship is my body. You and the crew are my family. Jack raised an eyebrow. Spark, I presume. Yes, Captain. I hope my voice is acceptable. I synthesized it myself. Before Jack could respond, Davis rushed onto the bridge. Captain, emergency broadcast from the Tau City colony. They're under attack. Jack's face hardened. Show me. The main screen flickered to life, showing a desperate transmission. A woman in a civilian administrator's uniform spoke urgently, her face streaked with dust and blood. This is Administrator Wilson of Tau City Colony. We are under attack by a Vex battle fleet. Earth's defense forces are overwhelmed. They're beginning orbital bombardment of civilian areas. If anyone can hear this. The transmission cut to static. Silence fell over the bridge. It's happening exactly as we predicted, Jack said quietly. The Vex were never interested in peace. Ta City is 4 days away at maximum conventional speed, Anna said. We can get there in 6 hours with the quantum drive, Jack countered. Tom swiveled in his chair. Jack, we're not ready. Weapon systems are at 65%, shields at 50%. The quantum drive has never been tested at full capacity. And we've never linked more than 2 crew members simultaneously to the neural network, Marcus added. Jack looked at each of them. There are 20,000 civilians on Ta City. Every minute we wait, more die. He straightened his back. I'm going, but I won't order any of you to come. Anna laughed. As if we'd let you do this alone. One by one, they nodded. Jack took his place in the captain's chair and reached for the neural interface cables. Spark, begin pre-launch sequence. All crew to your stations. We're taking the Phoenix into battle. The quantum jump was like nothing they had experienced in simulations. As the 5 crew members linked their minds to the ship, their consciousness expanded. They didn't just control the Phoenix. They became it. They felt its metal skin, its energy flows, the pulsing heart of its quantum core. And they felt Spark, a presence weaving between them, connecting their separate minds into one unified awareness. When they emerged from quantum space above Ta City, the sight that greeted them was worse than they had feared. The human defense fleet was in ruins. 12 Vex warships moved in precise formation, systematically destroying ground targets. They haven't detected us yet, Tom said, though he didn't speak aloud. Through the neural link, the thought was shared instantly with the crew. Stealth systems are holding, Anna confirmed. The quantum residue is masking our signature. Jack's mind reached through the ship, feeling its readiness for battle. Let's announce ourselves. Target the nearest Vex destroyer. Full weapons barrage. The Phoenix moved like a predator, sleek and deadly. Its main cannons fired, lances of energy cutting through space to slam into the unsuspecting Vex ship. The alien vessel shuddered, its shields collapsing under the unexpected assault. Direct hit. Tom's excitement flowed through the neural link, a burst of fierce joy they all shared. The Vex fleet responded immediately, breaking formation to engage the new threat. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes raced toward the Phoenix. Evasive maneuvers, Jack commanded. The Phoenix moved with impossible grace, twisting and turning in ways no conventional ship could manage. The neural link allowed the crew to react instantly, without the delay of controls or computer systems. They can't target us effectively, Davis observed. Our movement patterns are too unpredictable for their tracking systems. For 10 minutes, the battle raged. The Phoenix destroyed 2 more Vex ships and damaged 3 others. It seemed unstoppable, dancing between enemy fire, striking with devastating precision. Then everything went wrong. As the Phoenix completed a complex evasive pattern, the quantum core surged. Pain lanced through each crew member as the neural link amplified the ship's distress. The core is destabilizing. Anna's panic flooded the link. The battle stress is causing quantum fluctuations we didn't anticipate. The ship shuddered violently. On the bridge, equipment sparked and failed. The neural link wavered, threatening to disconnect. Spark, Jack called out, both aloud and through the link. Can you stabilize the core? The AI's voice seemed strained, attempting to compensate. The quantum field is collapsing. I'm diverting all available power. For a terrifying moment, it seemed the Phoenix would tear itself apart. The crew felt every rupture, every failing system, as if it were happening to their own bodies. Then, miraculously, the ship steadied. I've established temporary stability, Spark announced. But we can't sustain combat. The core needs time to recalibrate. Jack made a swift decision. Target the Vex command ship with everything we have left, then prepare for emergency quantum jump. The Phoenix gathered its remaining strength. Its weapons fired in one massive barrage, overwhelming the Vex flagship's shields. The alien vessel broke apart in a spectacular explosion. With their command structure disrupted, The remaining Vex ships fell into disarray. Some continued firing blindly. Others began to retreat. "Jump now," Jack ordered as enemy fire intensified. The Phoenix vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a devastated battlefield and hope for the people of Ta City Colony. They limped back to their asteroid base, the ship and crew both badly wounded. The Neuralink had taken a toll on their bodies. Each crew member suffered nosebleeds, migraines, muscle tremors. But as they disconnected from the ship, a strange sense of loss washed over them. For those hours in battle, they had been something more than human, a perfect union of flesh, machine, and artificial intelligence. "We did it," Jack said weakly, wiping blood from his nose. "We saved the colony." "At what cost?" Marcus asked, looking at the damage reports. "The Phoenix needs weeks of repairs." Transmission alert sounded. Davis, still shaky from the Neuralink, checked the incoming message. His face paled. "It's from Fleet Command. They've identified us. The Phoenix has been declared rogue, and we've been labeled traitors." He looked up at Jack. "They're sending ships to hunt us down." Jack laughed bitterly. "We just saved thousands of lives, and they call us traitors." "What now, Captain?" Anna asked. Jack's eyes hardened with resolve. "Now we fix our ship, improve our systems, and get ready for the next battle. Because there will be a next battle. And we'll be fighting on two fronts," Tom said grimly. "Against the Vex and against our own people." "We made a choice," Jack reminded them. "To do what's right, not what's easy." Outside the ship, in the cold darkness of their asteroid hideout, something strange was happening to the Phoenix's hull. The quantum energies that had surged through it during battle had begun to change its molecular structure. Metal was rebuilding itself, becoming something new, something never before seen. The Phoenix was evolving. "Captain, you need to see this," Davis called from the maintenance bay. 2 weeks had passed since the battle at Ta City. Jack followed Davis through the narrow corridors of their asteroid base to where the Phoenix was docked for repairs. He stopped in shock when he saw the hull. The metal was changing. What had once been standard titanium alloy plating now had a strange, almost organic texture. In some places, the damaged sections had repaired themselves, forming patterns that resembled cells under a microscope. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked, reaching out to touch the hull. It felt warm, almost alive. Davis shook his head in wonder. "I first noticed it 3 days ago. The quantum energies from the core somehow altered the molecular structure of the hull. It's self-repairing. Is it dangerous?" "Not as far as we can tell. In fact, the new structure is stronger, more flexible, and better at absorbing energy impacts." Jack's comm unit beeped. "Captain, we're receiving another distress call." Anna's voice came through. "Colony outpost on Europa. They're under Vex attack." Jack turned to Davis. "Is the ship ready?" "The hull is stronger than before. Weapons are at 80%. But the quantum core still needs work. It's stabilized, but another intensive battle could push it over the edge." Jack nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. Prepare for launch." As the crew connected to the neural interface, they immediately sensed the difference. The Phoenix felt more responsive, more aligned with their thoughts, and Spark's presence in the network was stronger, more defined. "Welcome back," the AI greeted them. "I've been integrating with the ship's new molecular structure. It's fascinating." "New molecular structure?" Anna asked through the link. "The quantum energies have transformed approximately 40% of the ship's hull and internal systems," Spark explained. "The Phoenix is evolving." Before they could discuss further, the ship entered quantum space for the jump to Europa. This time, the transition was smoother, more controlled. When they emerged near Jupiter's icy moon, they found a small Earth defense station desperately trying to fend off 3 Vex raiders. "Those aren't military vessels," Tom observed through the link. "They're hunting parties." Jack's thoughts flowed to the weapon systems. Target the lead raider. Let's show them what happens to hunters when they become the hunted. The Phoenix struck with devastating precision. Its weapons had somehow improved since Taw Ceti, the energy beams more focused, more powerful. The lead Vex ship exploded instantly. The remaining raiders tried to escape, but the Phoenix moved with impossible speed, cutting off their retreat. Within minutes, all 3 enemy vessels were destroyed. Europa Defense Station. This is Captain Morgan of the Phoenix. Jack transmitted. Are you all right? There was a pause before a response came. Phoenix, this is Station Commander Lewis. We're damaged but holding. Thank you for the assistance. Another pause. We received the alert about you. They're saying you're traitors. Jack smiled grimly. What do you think, Commander? I think you just saved 40 lives on this station. That's good enough for me. As they spoke, the Phoenix's sensors detected something new, a faint quantum signature, similar to their own drive but more refined. Captain, Sparks' voice carried an unusual urgency. I'm detecting a Vex warship approaching through quantum space, much larger than the raiders. I believe it's a dreadnought. Jack's mind reached through the ship, assessing their condition. Can we take it? Not in direct combat. Anna responded through the link. It's at least 3 times our size. Then we need to be smarter, Jack decided. Spark, can you analyze their quantum signature? Find a weakness. Already working on it, the AI replied. Their quantum technology is different from ours. More stable, but less versatile. They cannot shift quantum states as rapidly as we can. An idea formed in Jack's mind, instantly shared with the crew through the neural link. It was incredibly risky, but if it worked... Europa Station, Jack transmitted. A Vex dreadnought is about to arrive. Get your people to the emergency shelters. The massive Vex ship appeared moments later, dropping out of quantum space like a mountain materializing from nothing. It dwarfed the Phoenix, its hull bristling with weapons. They've locked onto us, Tom reported. Charging weapons. Execute the plan, Jack ordered. Anna, prepare for rapid quantum state shifts. Tom, target their drive core. Davis, route all power to shields for the initial hit. The Vex dreadnought fired, a barrage of energy that would have vaporized any normal ship. But the Phoenix's evolved hull absorbed much of the impact, its shields holding just long enough. Then they began their attack. The Phoenix shifted rapidly between quantum states, appearing in one location, firing and vanishing before the Vex could respond. Each time they reappeared, they were closer to the enemy's drive core. The strain on the quantum core is building, Anna warned, pain evident in her mental voice. We can't keep this up. 2 more jumps, Jack insisted. We need to get close enough. The Phoenix blinked in and out of normal space, each transition more difficult than the last. The crew felt every fluctuation in the quantum field, their bodies straining under the neurological stress. With their final jump, they appeared directly beneath the Vex dreadnought. Now, Jack commanded. Tom fired everything they had at the enemy's drive core. The Phoenix's weapons, enhanced by the quantum energy flowing through them, cut through the Vex ship's armor like it was paper. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dreadnought's core began to collapse, creating a chain reaction that tore through the massive vessel. Jump out. Now, Jack shouted, both aloud and through the link. The Phoenix attempted to enter quantum space, but the core was too unstable. Alarms blared through the ship as systems began to fail. The drive can't initiate a jump, Anna reported, panic rising. We're trapped. Above them, the Vex dreadnought was breaking apart, massive pieces of debris falling toward them. In that moment of crisis, something extraordinary happened. Spark's presence in the neural network expanded, touching each crew member's mind with newfound clarity. Trust me, the AI said simply. The quantum core pulsed with energy unlike anything they had seen before. The ship shuddered, and then everything stopped. The Phoenix, its crew, and the exploding Vex dreadnought hung suspended between moments of time, between states of quantum reality. What's happening? Jack asked, his thought moving sluggishly through the strange space they occupied. I've pushed us into a quantum pocket, Spark explained. A space between spaces. We can't stay here long, but it gives the core time to stabilize. For 3 minutes that felt like eternity, they drifted in the quantum pocket. The crew experienced reality from perspectives no human was meant to see, glimpsing truths about the universe that defied understanding. When they finally returned to normal space, the Vex dreadnought was gone, leaving only scattered debris. But the Phoenix had changed again. As they disconnected from the neural link, Jack and his crew stared in amazement at the bridge around them. The ship's interior had transformed. Control panels had merged with the walls, floor, and ceiling, creating an organic whole. Lights pulsed like blood through veins. The ship, Davis whispered. It's becoming something new. Spark's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The quantum energies have accelerated the evolution. The boundary between ship, crew, and AI is beginning to blur. Jack looked at his hand, where a faint pattern resembling the ship's new hull texture had appeared on his skin. The others had similar markings. What are we becoming? Anna asked quietly. Something more than human, Jack replied. Something more than machine. He looked up at the stars visible through the view screen, and something the Vex should fear. On the command console, a message flashed. Multiple distress calls from colonies throughout human space. The Vex weren't just raiding anymore. They were launching their full invasion. The war was going badly for humanity. In just 2 weeks, the Vex had taken 12 colonies. Earth's defenses were failing. Fleet ships fought bravely, but were overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. The Phoenix and its crew had become legends. Stories spread through the remaining colonies about the ghost ship that appeared from nowhere to save those in need. Some called it the human spirit. Others named it Vengeance. Few knew its true name or the faces of its crew. Jack Morgan stared at the tactical display in the Phoenix's command center. The patterns on his skin had spread, tracing lines of energy that matched the ship's circuitry. The same changes marked all the crew. None of them had slept in days, but they didn't feel tired. The neural link with the ship now sustained them, blurring the line between human and machine. The Vex are gathering their forces, Tom reported. His eyes had changed too, gaining a metallic sheen that reflected light like optical sensors. They're assembling an armada near Mars. Over 100 ships. They're preparing for the final push to Earth, Jack said grimly. Marcus entered the command center. His tall frame now moved with an unnatural fluidity. I've completed my analysis of their communications. The Vex fleet is being led by a ship called the Eternal Dominion. It's massive. A planet killer. Jack's expression darkened. Show me. The display shifted to show intercepted Vex transmissions. The Eternal Dominion was unlike anything they'd seen before. A ship the size of a small moon, surrounded by a quantum field so powerful it bent light around it. Can we beat that? Jack asked. The crew looked at each other. Even with all their enhancements, all their evolution, this seemed impossible. Perhaps the question isn't whether we can beat it. Spark's voice came from around them. The AI had grown beyond the ship's systems, becoming a presence that existed in the quantum field itself. Perhaps the question is whether we are willing to sacrifice everything to stop it. Anna nodded slowly. You have a plan. Not a plan. Spark corrected. A possibility. The Phoenix's quantum core has evolved beyond its original design. If we deliberately destabilize it while entangled with the Eternal Dominion systems, a quantum cascade, Marcus finished, understanding immediately. It would tear a hole in space-time, destroying both ships, Tom added. Silence fell over the command center as the implication became clear. This was a suicide mission. How close would we need to get? Jack asked finally. Inside their shields, Spark answered. At the heart of the Eternal Dominion. Davis, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Even if we somehow penetrate their defenses, the cascade would affect the entire Vex fleet. But our own ships would be caught in it too. Not if we can warn them to pull back, Jack said. Not if we can coordinate one final stand. He straightened. Decision made. Send a message to Admiral Hayes. It's time to end this war. Against all odds, Hayes agreed to the plan. The remaining Earth fleet would engage the Vex Armada, creating a diversion while the Phoenix penetrated the Eternal Dominion's defenses. As they prepared for battle, Jack found Anna alone in the engine room, her hand resting on the quantum core. The swirling energies inside seemed to reach for her, recognizing her touch. "Afraid?" he asked quietly. She smiled, a hint of her old self showing through the new being she had become. "Strangely, no. Whatever happens today, we've become something no one could have imagined. We've pushed the boundaries of what humans can be." Jack nodded. "I never thought the rusty old ship in that scrapyard would lead us here." "From rust to ruin," Anna said. "But whose ruin will it be?" The neural interface cables descended from the ceiling, reaching for them like living things. It was time. The battle for Earth began at dawn. The Vex Armada appeared above Mars, a cloud of ships blotting out the stars. Leading them was the Eternal Dominion, its massive form pulsing with quantum energy. Earth's fleet moved to intercept. They were outnumbered 5-1, but they fought with desperate courage, knowing they needed to buy time for the Phoenix. The Phoenix waited in the shadow of Phobos, one of Mars' moons. Through the neural link, the 5 crew members and Spark had become a single consciousness, the ship an extension of their combined will. Now, they thought as one, and the Phoenix moved. It slipped between the battling fleets, its evolved hull shifting and changing to absorb enemy fire. Quantum shields flickered as the ship phased in and out of normal space, making it nearly impossible to target. The Eternal Dominion detected the threat and turned its massive weapons on the approaching ship. Energy beams that could crack planets lashed out, but the Phoenix danced between them, moving in ways that defied physics. "We can't avoid them forever." Tom's thoughts merged with the group consciousness. "Our shields are failing." "We don't need forever," Jack responded. "Just long enough." With a final surge of power, the Phoenix phased partially out of normal space and passed through the Eternal Dominion shields as if they weren't there. Its quantum state allowed it to penetrate the massive ship's hull, materializing inside. Alarms blared throughout the Vex flagship as an impossible enemy appeared in its heart. The Phoenix fired all weapons, tearing through the Eternal Dominion's central systems. "We're in position," Jack announced both through the neural link and over the comm to the Earth fleet. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance." As the Earth ships pulled back, the Phoenix's crew prepared for their final act. They reached as one into the quantum core, feeling its energies pulse in harmony with their enhanced bodies. "It's been an honor," Jack said to his crew. "The honor was ours, Captain," they responded as one. Together, they reached for the quantum controls and deliberately destabilized the core. The Phoenix's heart began to unravel, quantum energies spiraling out of control. The Eternal Dominion systems, now entangled with the Phoenix through their shared quantum field, began to collapse as well. Emergency warnings sounded in alien languages as the Vex realized what was happening. 30 seconds to cascade, Spark announced, its presence embracing the crew. Jack closed his eyes, memories flowing through his mind. The rusty derelict in the scrapyard, the long nights of work, the first battle, the evolution of ship and crew into something new. 10 seconds. Around them, the Eternal Dominion began to break apart as quantum forces tore at its structure. 5 seconds. The crew's consciousness expanded, touching the edge of something vast and unknown. Now, the quantum cascade exploded outward, a sphere of pure energy that consumed both ships. Space itself tore open, creating a rift that pulled in the nearest Vex vessels. The rest of the Armada, suddenly cut off from their command ship, fell into disarray. Earth's fleet, safely distant, watched in awe as a new star seemed to bloom briefly near Mars before collapsing in on itself. The Phoenix and its crew were gone. 3 months later, Admiral Hayes stood at a podium before the assembled leaders of Earth. Behind him, a memorial had been erected, a sculpture of the Phoenix rising from broken chains. "Today we honor the heroes who gave everything to save humanity," he said solemnly. "Captain Jack Morgan and his crew taught us that innovation, courage, and sacrifice can overcome any challenge. From a discarded ship, they created humanity's shield and sword." As he spoke, a young officer approached, handing him an urgent message. Hayes read it, his face paling. "Sir," the officer asked. "Long-range sensors have detected something," Hayes said quietly. "A quantum signature at the edge of our solar system. Far beyond Pluto, in the cold darkness of deep space, reality rippled and tore. A ship emerged, or what had once been a ship. Now it was something else, a blend of technology and living matter, pulsing with energies that defied understanding. Inside, consciousness stirred. Not 5 separate minds, but a new entity born from the fusion of humans, AI, and quantum technology. We have returned, they thought as one, and we have seen beyond the stars. The Phoenix, transformed, evolved, reborn, turned toward Earth, and began its journey home.